there were the Opium Wars in the 1830s, where effectively the British Empire and the East India Trading Company were making ungodly amounts of money by selling opium to China. They would grow the opium on the Golden Crescent or India, and then they would sell it to China with a huge customer base, which would bring in huge amounts of revenues to the British Crown. And then there were two opium wars that were fought in the 1830s and 50s, I believe, around then. And the Opium Wars were China's attempt to stop the import of opium into China because it had a huge, by that point, opium addiction problem. Opium dens in China were a massive issue within the country. They tried to ban it, and the British Crown pried open the narcotics market through a military conquest of parts of China. That's how Britain got control of Hong Kong, which remains a major narco trafficking site connected to Jeffrey Epstein in very weird ways. But Mao rose to power in the name of his public campaign was about rejecting the century of humiliation between the 1830s and the 1930s to support Chiang Kai-shek and the Kuomintang, the Chinese nationalists against the Chinese communists. The War Department couldn't get enough congressional allocations, taxpayer money to support that. So they had to find some way to finance the forces that are now effectively Taiwan, because when they ultimately lost, they fled to the island of Formosa, which is now Taiwan. But they financed that initially, the War Department, the Chinese nationalists, through the narcotics trade, through basically the narcotics cultivated in the Golden Triangle. And these operations continued in Cambodia and Laos and were a big part of the JFK expansion of covert operations. But what happened is Paul Helliwell, in order to be able to traffic illegal narcotics, created a bunch of these CIA banking structures. One's called Castle Bank and Trust in the Cayman Islands. Another one, Nugan Hand in Australia. And when you have that, friendly bank that's protected, then you can move drugs